Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're watching this video. I want to thank you so much for making our time to join us in today's video. You guys are the best. I love you all. Today, we're talking about a very important topic, and that topic affects business owners. As you know, in Accounting Simplified, we guide you with simple tips to help you grow your business and to help you organize your records. Today, we're talking about a very important topic, and that is expenses that affect your profits the most and how to control them. If you think it's something you're interested in as a business owner, grab yourself a cup of coffee or a cup of water and go nowhere as we start the program. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Accounting Simplified. Now, have you ever wondered why your profit seems to disappear after a very good sales week? We're talking about the hidden expenses that quietly eat up your profit and how you can stop them. Now, number one expense that quietly eats up your profit and how you can stop them is your direct expense. If you've been following my video, I've talked about what direct expenses are, but I'll be giving you a brief recap. But for more information of what a direct expense, kindly check my previous video where I talked about how to calculate your profit. There, I talked about direct expenses. Even in Cashbook, I talked about direct expenses, and my just uploaded video, I talked about direct expense. But let me just give us a brief recap of what a direct expense is. Now, direct expense is the expense that is directly tied to your product, also the service you're rendering. Like if you're into purchase of let me use the instance of a food vendor. If you're a food vendor, that means you have a restaurant where you sell food. Your main purchases, your main products, your main raw materials that you would need to help you do your business will be mostly food items. So that will involve you going to the market to buy food items that you need to prepare. That require you to pay transport fare, and that require you to buy things like maybe plates. These are the key things you need to run your business. So the raw materials you'll be needing, for instance, as a food vendor, would be foodstuff, raw foodstuff, meat, chicken, pepper, crayfish. These are the raw materials you will need to purchase almost every time you go to the market. You will need to buy things like plates, spoons, if you've not bought them earlier on before. You will need to buy things like maybe gas. Are we together? You will need to pay for your transport to and fro the market. So every other cost or every cost you incur to enable you produce the product or your service that is core for your production of your service, that is very, very important, that without them you cannot produce the particular product or service you prepare or the product or service you render, is a direct expense. You know that we like to avoid jargons for simple understanding for our business owner. So let me just call it core expenses. Core meaning important expenses. Instead of using the term direct expenses, I'm going to use the term core expenses. Are we together? So your core expenses are one major expense that would eat up your profit. And how do they eat up your profit? They do that by when you buy things from the supplier. If you're not able to negotiate properly from the supplier and you buy item piecemeal by piecemeal, you would agree with me that the price of items in the market piecemeal by piecemeal are a lot more expensive than when you buy them in bulk. Are you together? So buying in bulk is one way to reduce your cost. We're all about managing our money, and if you're supposed to make profit, you're supposed to find ways to limit your expenses as much as possible. So number one tip I would advise every business owner who wants to cut down his or her costs is to buy in bulk. Are we together? Or if you can find area you can buy them cheap but yet of the high quality or the right quality, that is one way you're going to help yourself not to lose all the profit you have made in your business. Another core expenses that eat up your business or eat up the profit in your business is what I call other business expenses. The actual accounting term is overhead expenses, but we don't want to use jargons that will confuse anybody. So let me just call it other business expenses. We can call it running costs or operational expenses. And when I say operational expenses, these are expenses you must incur for you to run your business, irrespective of whether you're selling products or you're not selling products or rendering services or not. These expenses are the expenses you must incur. Are we together? Like for instance, your shop rent. That is a cost you must incur, whether you have food to sell or you don't have food to sell. In the case of a food vendor, salary. That is a fee, an expense you must incur, whether people come to your shop to buy or they don't come to your shop to buy. As long as you have a sales girl or a sales boy or a cleaner that comes to shop every day, he has left his house and you agree with him that at the end of the month you pay him XY amount for him coming to serve customers. Even the cost of the time being he's with you and you don't have customers, he's not to blame actually. You as the owner of the business ought to find way to get customers. So you're supposed to pay him his salary. Even the cleaner that comes every day to clean the shop, you ought to pay them their salary. That is a cost you are supposed to run. A cost you're supposed to incur. Are we together? Now, and if you're someone that need light in your shop all the time, is also another operational running expenses. So any expense that you incur to enable you run your shop or sell your product, but is not directly connected to you selling the product, as in the case of buying raw materials, having a shop, there are things you do normally. They enable you run the shop. Do you understand? Having light is something that you have to do. You cannot have a shop and you don't have light, except you want to live without light, and that is your own business as the owner of the business. But I'm trying to help you understand what are these running operational expenses, what are these other business expenses. So any expense you incur, they enable you to run the business. If for instance you need to own or you need to buy fuel so that you can own your gen, do you understand? So that customers can feel relaxed. Now that is a cost you must incur. As long as you have customers, they must enjoy the light. Do you understand? So they don't leave your shop and go elsewhere. So any cost you incur to enable you run the business smoothly. Now this I've listed is inexhaustive. There could be other costs that you incur to enable you run your business. Another example is if for instance you have a TV and then you use GoTV or you use DSTV and you have to be charged every month. That is a running cost because you have taken the upon yourself that you want to always have your TV on. So any cost you incur that will enable you run your business, irrespective of whether you have customers in the shop or you don't have them in the shop, or you're not selling or you're selling, you have taken that as a norm. These are running expenses. So what you can do in case of this expense is to track them. If for instance you use 5,000 naira as your data, you can say, okay, I will use my data only when I have customers. Do you understand? If you don't have customers, you won't use your data. That is the way of you managing the expenses. You have to think of ways to manage and minimize your expense. Even though you said you spend 5,000 naira on data, it's not compulsory that you must own your data every time. You can say, I won't own my data except when I'm about to go home. Or I won't own the data in the office except early in the hours of the morning. You're enabling yourself to what? Maximize that data. Even the issue of light, you can say, okay, I won't on light. As long as it's broad daylight, I won't on light. I will on light only say in the evening if I happen to stay till like 7 or 8. But once I'm in the shop between 1, 2 or morning time to afternoon time and there's bright sunlight, I will not on my light. I might just on the fridge. I might not on the normal light while you're trying to save your cost. So all these are ways to minimize cost. So as a business owner, you should be able to think outside the box on how to minimize your expenses, and we are here to help you do that. Are we together? Now, another expense or another way your expenses could be going very high is wastage and unrecorded costs. Now, this is one cost that silently kills your profit. Like for instance, if you have food you have purchased, raw materials, and for one reason or the other they got spoiled. Now that money you used to purchase that raw material is a waste because you cannot use those spoiled products to produce the final produce, which is the food you want to prepare. You cannot. That money is a waste. Do you understand? If you're unfortunate and then people come and they steal from your shop, it's a waste. Are we together? And if you're not keeping records properly, it's a way, because you cannot account properly for what is happening in your business. So what you can do to avoid these things from happening is to keep proper records. Everything you do in your shop, record them as they occur so that you don't forget. I think that most time we forget, but if you decide to keep proper records, you will not forget, and you have record of everything, every expense that is happening in your business. Another thing you can do is to ensure that you manage your stock well. If you buy your raw materials, as soon as you buy them, keep them in the fridge, or if they are the ones you need to cook, cook them so they don't spoil. So you be proactive so that those wastages and theft that would occur in a very normal day, they won't occur. If you're not fond of locking the shop before you go out, lock the shop so that there will not be issue of theft. Are we together? So these are ways you can minimize your wastages and reduce all those things that silently kill your profit. Another habit that most people have is unnecessary spending. People just spend without planning for it. If you plan before you spend every dime, you will not just spend unnecessarily. Before you spend, you will ask yourself, is this expense necessary? Do I really, truly, really need this for my business? If the answer is no, then you don't need to buy it. Sometimes people drink bottles of malt, coke, like 3 bottles a day, in the morning, afternoon, and night. If you don't need to buy 3 bottles of malt because you're in the shop, there is no need. You can just drink water. After all, they are all fluids. You just want something to smooth your throat. Do you understand? So, unnecessary spending is one way that steals your profit without you knowing. So, the best way to avoid it is to plan. Have what you have planned to use every dime for. Before you spend, make a plan for it. Ask yourself, is this necessary? Is there a cheaper alternative? If there is, then why not use that cheaper alternative so that you can save money? Because if you make a profit of say 5 million naira and you spend the money recklessly, you've lost that money. But if you plan, you ask yourself question, how important is this money to my is it to my business? This thing I want to buy, is it important? Is it necessary? If I buy it in bulk, will it be cheaper? Do you understand? These are ways you can prevent yourself from spending unnecessarily. Are we together? So remember that every money you're able to spend, you have saved it and it's added back to your profit, or rather it saves the business. Do you understand? So ensure that you take into cognizance and try to practice the above that I've mentioned so that you can prevent your profit from slipping away. Because most times people make profit but they cannot account for it. And that is because of all these little errors. So we should be very careful. As a business owner, you should be very careful. Ensure that you practice these tips to help you stop losing profit. Ensure that you budget, you plan. For everything you spend, plan for it. Have an estimate of what that thing is and ask yourself questions. Is this necessary for the business? If I don't need it, why should I incur the expense? If I decide to buy data or be an impulse buyer, most people are impulse buyers. The people come to their shop with clothes and shoes, and they didn't plan to buy clothes and shoes before. Or because they've come with the shoes and the clothes and they are fancy, they are on kind of under duress, unconsciously, and they end up spending the money that they have used as kept as their profit. So don't be an impulse buyer. Before you buy, plan for it. Ask yourself, is it necessary? Does this help the business? If the answer is no, then don't spend that money. So ask yourself questions before you spend any money. I hope you've been able to learn something from this video. If you have, kindly give this video a like, a share, and subscribe. And don't forget to keep subscribing so you can learn practical tips on how to save your. Yes, thanks for stopping by. Bye.